now we're doing our rhubarb pie filling. I already have my rhubarb cut. This is from last year, and I had it stored in the freezer. It's already thawed. You can do it thawed or frozen. If you do it thawed, you get a lot of juice in it. I don't like to get rid of that juice and then have a dry pie, so I add a little bit more flour to compensate for that. We are going to need, this is a double batch. This is 8 cups of rhubarb, and it is a cup and a half of sugar. I have green and red rhubarb, and the green rhubarb is a little more sour than red rhubarb. So I'm just going to mix the sugar right in with the rhubarb and give it a good stir. Some people like to mix the flour and sugar together separately. That is fine also. What I am going to do is we need a half a cup of flour, and the flour is going to thicken it. I know like the minute tapioca is a good thickener also. And I'm going to add just a little bit more, about 2 tablespoons more, because I've got so much extra juice. And because this is a double batch, I'm doubling the amount of cinnamon to 1 teaspoon instead of a half. And just stir that together with your fork or your whisk. So the cinnamon's for flavor and the flour is for thickening. And one thing to remember, if you're doing a deep dish pie, when you are baking your deep dish pie, remember to allow for an extended baking time. And sometimes it can vary from 5 minutes, sometimes it can be up to 20 or 30 minutes, depending on what you're cooking. The rhubarb seems to be a pretty thick pie filler, so sometimes if I'm doing a double crust, it's generally 20 to 30 minutes more to make sure that it's done. I don't like to have pie that is completely falling apart when you're trying to scoop it out. And after you have this mixed up, if it still seems a little bit thin for you, if you're using thawed fruit like I am, fresh fruit won't be quite as juicy. You can always add a little bit more flour, or you could even add in a little bit of cornstarch for your thickener. And by a little bit, I mean like a tablespoon or 2. The best time to really add that in is mixing it right in with your flour. So I've already rolled out my pie crusts, and I'm using 1 deep dish pie shell and 1 shallow pie shell, because I didn't have quite enough rhubarb for 2 deep dishes. They're both about a 9-inch pie shell. Okay, so it's all mixed up and ready to go into your pie shell, and that's how you make rhubarb pie filling.